Welcome to the Bookish Spell, your cozy corner for all things bookish. I'm Angie, your host, and each week I'll be diving into the magical world of books, sharing reviews, author interviews, and so much more. New episodes drop every Wednesday, so grab a cup of coffee and get ready to turn the page with me.
Great, Tilly. So welcome on to the show. I'm glad to finally chat with you. I was actually looking at your Instagram a couple days ago.
Oh, yeah?
You were very curious. I like the content you post. So tell us a bit about your books.
So I write romance, and
Ooh.
I've got 2 books out right now, Anders and the Girl Worth Fighting For and Jessica and the Jarhead. I have a 3rd book coming out in April, Duke's Daring Bookworm. They are all set in the same universe. It's a series, but they're standalone, interconnected standalones, so they don't have to be read in the series in order. And it's basically, it follows a group of Marines after they've left the military and they're falling in love. It's set in the South in Savannah, which is a place that my family is from. And actually my brother was stationed there when he was a Marine at Parris Island. And so I'm like, oh, this will be perfect little place. And my sister-in-law is my editor and make sure I get things right.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so it follows this little found family group of guys and the women that they fall in love with. And all the little offshoots along the way, all the little side characters get their own stories. And I've got 18 planned books in this series. Yes.
I love it. So tell us a little bit about what inspired you to start writing, or when did you start your writing journey?
Well, I started my writing journey in 2007 on a dare. Somebody said, "You love reading, you should try writing."
Love it.
And I loved it. I loved writing. It took me 16 years to finally publish my writing. It wasn't a waste of time. I just didn't feel ready to publish. Yeah. I was scared, really. And then in 2023, I had 2 strokes, and that's not fun. And I really thought, oh, crap, I've wasted my life. I'm here now and I'm alive. And it was a very dark time for me when I started writing Anders and the Girl Worth Fighting For. And my sister actually messaged me about it, and she said, "You should write this book. I need these specific tropes written in this specific way." I'm like, "Write it yourself." She says, no, you have to be the one to write it for me. Which, ended up saving my life. So I'm very grateful she was very insistent on that.
Yeah.
Because I had been very suicidal, which is a very common side effect, I guess, of strokes, because your brain's going through rebuilding itself, basically, rewriting neural pathways, and it's a very difficult process. And so it's very common to be suicidal after strokes. But writing the books gave me something to hold on to. I said, okay, I'll stick around long enough to give my sister the book she wants. By the time I finished it, and I had in writing it, so Grace, my main character, is going through a divorce and leaving her religion and changing her entire life. And I had to process a whole lot of things about my life pre-strokes in the books. And so it saved my life. By the time I was done, I had 18 books planned, and I was like, I guess I'm doing this. That's where the rest of my books were born. Jessica and the Jarhead follows Grace's cousin Jessica and her high school sweetheart, and their second chance at love. And then my next one, Duke and Lily's book, Duke's Daring Bookworm, follows 2 best friends that shouldn't, or think they shouldn't be together, but absolutely have been in love with each other for years. Just have to figure it out. Yeah, it's been really fun to write that one. Yeah, it's been a blast.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tell us what's your favorite part of the writing process and why.
Daydreaming.
Mm-hmm.
Probably that part. I also
Good
really
answer.
enjoy, I know most people say they hate this part, and there's parts I don't like, but I enjoy editing. So
Yeah.
writing the first draft always feels like a little chaotic.
Mm.
Especially I don't write in order, so I write scenes as they occur to me. Um, but the second part of my writing process is literally just rewriting everything start to finish in order. So that's the first time I really get the whole story start to
Oh,
finish, what's really happening rather than these disparate little scenes. And I get to tie things together. I really like that process. Get to see the characters grow, get to see how things are changing and developing. I just find it very fascinating. It's a lot of fun, and it's almost like reading the story for the first time.
that's a very unique way because from what I gather, is it's hard to edit because people feel like they live the story, they created the story, they're done with it, they don't want to read it
Right.
again.
Yes.
Very, very unique way that you go about your writing process. Very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, when it came to creating or crafting any of your stories, was there anything specific to your life that you put into those stories, or just something
Everything.
that? Oh, really? Nice.
Feel like I just take a version of myself and stamp it over top. I wrote, I think it was on Blue Sky the other day, a little tweet, or no, I'm not called tweets, but I'm gonna call it that. Anyways, a little
Yeah.
post, because it kind of occurred to me that each of my books is just like a different part of myself that at the time I was writing it, I had to learn how to accept and
Mm,
love and grow in, you know, with Grace's book, I had to kind of process growing up in a high control religion. I grew up Mormon,
mm,
and what that was like and how I experienced life through the lens of that high control religion. My next book, it follows Jessica, who has a lot of body image issues at the start of the book, and she had to learn how to love and accept herself. She also
mm,
had a lot of significant childhood trauma that she
mm,
had to process that was stopping her from being able to accept love. And in this next book, Lily, my main character, she is autistic and has ADHD, and she's undiagnosed.
mm,
And having to work through kind of I am diagnosed with ADHD, but I'm also autistic, and having to
mm.
work through the parts of myself that I put into the books, to learn how to love them and accept them because I love my characters. By the end of it, I love my characters. And so it's kind of this question of like, how can I love them and all the parts of myself that I've put into them and not love myself along the
That's
way?
beautiful. Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. You
Mhm.
know, just the way you're saying it and how you've written your books. I guess if you think about it like this, how most people just journal, but they
Yeah.
journal like what they went through. I feel like maybe being a writer and writing parts of you, but creating the outcome that you wanted to happen.
Yeah.
I see that being pretty healing rather
Oh
than
my
just
gosh. Yeah.
journaling what happened.
Yes.
It's just like you rewriting your story.
Yes. And for
Uh,
years before I really sat down to publish these books, my therapist had been telling me I need to write. He was
Right.
right all along. I just
Yeah.
didn't listen.
I'm glad that you got the nudge you needed from your sister. That was like,
Yes.
I feel like that's my favorite part of your story is like she knew what she was doing.
Yes.
And finally wrote, um, and I'm glad you're in a better place now.
Thank
That's
you.
beautiful.
I am too.
All right. Now, do you have any like specific writing routines or habits to help you stay productive? Or you just kind of write when you feel like it?
I write every day. I
Oh, nice.
have a set goal of 2,000 words a day. Whether I make it or not doesn't matter as much as
Mhm.
actually writing. So sometimes I'll
Mhm.
write more, sometimes I'll write less. Hopefully, by the end of the week, I've had 14,000 words written. More would be great. Less is still okay. I try to, accept whatever I can do. But I do write every single day. I'm in a position that I don't need to work a separate full-time job outside of my home. And so I can work on writing at any point that it really is. I don't wait to be inspired to write. And I generally know what I need to work on for the writing. So at any point I feel that I can sit down and do that, I do as much as I can in terms of writing. And I've had to really learn how to let my voice go and grow. And so doing it every single day has really helped me let go of control of like silencing myself, because that was
Mhm.
something I've really had to deal with in life, growing up autistic, being
Mhm.
told I'm too loud all the time, being told I talk too much. Um, I really silenced myself for a really long time. So forcing myself, it sounds bad, but forcing myself to do this every day has really helped open that up and has made it a lot easier to
Good,
do it every day.
good. So do you tend to outline plots, or you're more like a pantser?
I wouldn't call myself a pantser. I was when I first started writing, but somewhere along the way, I kind of learned a balance between coming up with a character, two
Hmm.
characters in this case, because I write romance,
Mm.
and trying to figure out via my daydreaming. Some therapists would call it maladaptive. I just call it productive
Okay.
daydreaming. Kind of how do they know each other is what one of the questions I asked. How do they know each other? Why are they not already together if they've known each other for a long time? And what changes to make them come together?
Right.
And I
Nice.
think those are the kind of the three important like questions you got to know about your characters in romance when you're writing it. And so then I can sit down with those questions answered and the names of characters. And by that point, I kind of can map out loosely what needs to happen.
Nice.
I don't have an outline. I don't write it down. It's all in my head. But I do know, like, okay, I need a scene where they fight. What do they look like when they fight? Okay, I need to write my spicy scene because I need to know what do they look like when they're completely vulnerable with each other. Have they like let go? Have they not? What needs to change to make that happen? Um, okay, I need a scene where they meet. I need the scene where they finally say, I love you. So knowing kind of what scenes have to happen, but not actually outlining anything. Because an
Mm.
outline, my brain says it's written and I can't
Yeah.
go from there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us a little bit about your spicy scenes. Is there a lot of it in your books, or what's the deal with
Every
that?
book, I don't have like a standard for my brand. I probably should, but I feel like every book is its own thing. So in Anderson the Girl We're Fighting For, it's very much fade to black, a lot more poetic
Mhm.
language for the one spicy scene, a lot more steamy than spicy,
Mhm.
because of Grace's trauma that happened in her divorce and her marriage before that. And Anders is very, very protective of her. So it made a lot more sense that he's like, bye, you don't get to see this, to protect Grace. And Jessica and the Jarhead's very much a novella. So it's got, I would call it three spicy scenes, but they're all really like back to back,
Okay.
while they're stuck in the cabin before they're like, okay, we got to just make this work.
Right.
Duke Staring Bookworm, the premise of the book is that Lily is a 30-year-old autistic virgin who wants to rid herself of that,
Mm.
identity. She's like, I can't make a relationship work, and I have. She's like, I have needs, Duke.
That's
Um,
funny.
and he is her best friend from childhood, and he has been
Hmm.
called the Duke of Debauchery, and he's got his own version of how he came across that name, but he tries to live up to it and is known for being a playboy. So she said, look, you've got the experience and I have no experience. And I just, listen, I just need this in my life. I'm probably not going to get it anywhere else. Just give it to me for a month. We'll be happy. So because that's the plot, there's 12 sex scenes.
Oh, wow.
Explicit, graphic.
Mm.
Pretty much not. I've had to try to beat them off each other with a stick to get plot in there. But there is plot, but it is very heavily spicy. And then my book after that will be a sapphic book, Frankie and the Fed, and I've already read 3 spicy scenes for it. It probably won't be quite as heavy as Duke's book because it is a spy novel, but so it's going to have a lot more action. But yeah, it's got quite a lot of spicy scenes. I do write gratuitous graphic sex scenes frequently.
Love that. Have you ever faced writer's block? And if so, how do you overcome it?
Yes. And the best advice I got for facing writer's block was, what are you too afraid to say? And that's almost always been the case. What am I too afraid to face in my own life? And what am I too afraid to say? So when I started approaching writer's block with the perspective of what emotion am I unwilling to face in myself that my characters probably are also unwilling to face themselves, and start with that emotion, I can then build from there, even if it's just a few hundred words, and get the ball rolling. So my book, Anders and the Girl Worth Fighting For, starts on a panic attack that Grace is having in her church's parking lot. And I literally had a panic attack in my church's parking lot before I left the church and was like, okay, we're just going to write this emotion because how is she going to handle that emotion different than I did? And so starting with that emotion has really helped me break through writer's block, because usually the writer's block for me is coming from, what am I unwilling to face? What am I afraid of?
Beautiful. Now, are there any authors or books that influenced your writing style?
To be honest, I've read like 2,000 or 3,000 romance novels across all genres. I do have some favorite authors. I don't know if they've influenced my writing style because I've had so many different like exposure to so many different ones.
Right.
But some of my favorite authors include Ruby Dixon, Alessandra Hazard, S. Rodman, Elliot Grayson, and they've really Finley Fenn. I've really read a lot of their material, so I'm sure that there is influence from them, their writing style, how they approach characters and character development, that has influenced me. I know for a fact my desire to have my books be interconnected standalones all within the same universe and just side characters all get in their own story comes from Ruby Dixon, because that's like her brand. And I love it. I love that there's always like another book, another side character to follow. So
I think that's a really good way to create stories, and I do wish more authors would do that.
Yeah.
Because I was just talking last week with another author about this, that one of my things that I always yearn for is, I want to know what happens to this character after. I want to know where this character came from. I want to know more about the character rather than the plot. I know
yes. Yes. I think romance is the absolute perfect genre for that, like real character driven. Every character is really a lot better fleshed out and has their own kind of story. So in Duke's Daring Bookworm, which is the one that's coming up, Lily has a roommate, Frankie, who is kind of mysterious. She's like gone a lot, which is super useful for the plot in Duke's Daring Bookworm. But there's that question of like, why are you gone all the time? Where are you going? Which kind of led to her book, Frankie and the Fed, which is my sapphic spy novel that will be coming out. I don't have a date yet for that.
So good.
Yes.
I love it. That's really nice.
Yeah.
All right. And what's the most challenging part of writing for you? And how do you deal with it? If there is a challenging part.
Oh, there's always challenging parts. I think for me, the most challenging part has been putting myself out there, especially
Mm.
on social media. It took me a very long time to feel, I wouldn't say comfortable, maybe more resigned
Mhm.
with having to market myself, not just my books, but myself on social
Yeah.
media. That was very uncomfortable. And I made a lot of mistakes very early on. Um, Thankfully, I've learned, and there have been a lot of really great people kind of take me under their wing along the way that have helped me kind of learn and grow, not just as an author, but as because we kind of are social media content creators and
Mhm.
personalities. And so I think that's probably the hardest part of writing, that it's not just writing, it's everything else.
I guess nowadays, especially if you're an indie author, it comes along with it that you now are a content creator.
Yep. Yep. There's no way around it,
No,
unfortunately.
seriously.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. All right, can you share any memorable feedback or reviews that you received for your work?
My very first review I ever got made me cry.
Huh?
It was on Anderson the Girl Worth Fighting For. And like I've said, Grace went through significant trauma with her marriage. And
Mhm.
um, the review, I don't remember the exact wording, but it was essentially like I related so much to this character because my own background and trauma went through this, and seeing her be able to like
Mm.
grow and change and find happily ever after just gives me like hope. It made me feel seen and heard, and I just broke down in tears when I read that because I was like, oh my
Wow.
gosh,
Oh my
okay, this made every
God.
headache worth it. I will keep going. Which is
I love
really
that.
good. It was maybe a month after I published it that was um,
Wow.
written. So I was like, okay, let's keep going. And
Mm,
now I have two, almost three books,
I love it.
15 more planned.
So, like, and you self-published, right?
Yes. Yes.
Have you ever, do you ever think about doing traditional publishing?
Um, I have some ideas that I think might benefit from traditional publishing. Um, we'll see how it goes. They're a
Mhm.
very different genre than I currently write, and it would be under a different pen name. They're basically sci-fi and fantasy novels, very complex. I've been world building and trying to figure things out for those for years now. It'll probably be
Mhm.
years more before they're written.
Mhm.
Um, Otherwise, no, I don't really want to. I like self-publishing. I like having the control over things
Mhm.
that self-publishing gives me. I also don't want to face rejection.
Yeah.
Like so hard as
Yeah.
traditionally published authors get hundreds of rejections just to find an agent, hundreds of rejections just to, get published. So that's not really something I'm interested in. But I also really like having control over my own process and my end product.
Mhm. Yeah. As a aspiring writer myself, I feel like self-publishing would be the way I would go
Yeah.
because I need to have that control. I
Yes.
need to. I need
Well,
to. I
yeah,
can't.
and it's a double-edged sword too, because on the one hand, you get complete control. On the other hand, if it's terrible, it's completely on you.
Yes, it's true. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I need the story to say what I want it to say.
Yeah.
I need the cover to look like what I want it to look like, and
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I grew up in a really strict household too, and I hope one day that I can overcome this. But I get really defensive when someone tells me what to do.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
If it's something like, "Oh, can you take out the trash?" It's like I get upset about it. I don't know. It's very,
Pathological demand avoidance. Yeah,
it's so bad.
that's what it's called.
Like, oh, see, I didn't know that, but I know, like, even if
Mhm.
people are like truly not harmful in any way and just ask me to do something, like, I have to constantly tell myself, like, just do it. It's not that big of a deal. While
Yeah.
inside, I'm like, I don't want to. I want to fight back. Like,
Yeah.
it's so
That that is
terrible.
absolutely one thing that self-publishing has allowed me to work around, because the second somebody else's fingers are in it with giving me deadlines, I'm like, "Oh, I can't do this anymore. Sorry.
Right?
Bye." Yeah.
I know I would feel that way. So
Yeah,
I don't think
absolutely.
it would work out for me.
Yeah.
So, so self-publishing is where I would go.
Yes. And I strongly suggest, if that's what you're doing, to do a lot of research. I had no idea. I didn't even have social media until after I published.
Oh,
Uh,
really? Wow.
in fact, I had been off personal social media for 4 years. I went off in 2020. I'm like, oh, no, this is too much for me.
Mhm.
um, and I hadn't been on it again until I created Tilly Lebeck and had
Wow.
to get on to promote my books. So I started out behind a bit there. So I would suggest, I mean, you already are making yourself known and making a name for yourself on social media with this podcast, with your accounts, because otherwise you're gonna end up behind. Nobody will know who
Yeah.
you are.
Well, that
Yeah.
is one thing I do like is I do like content creating and just social media in general. I'm a very tech person.
Yeah.
What interests me, even though like I don't really have a giant platform.
Yeah.
Like my TikTok has a pretty good following, but like Instagram it's slowly getting there. I just always had an obsession with it. My problem is I don't stick very long. So that's why I chose the book route because I absolutely love reading and I love talking to people.
Yeah.
Um, so this is actually something the longest I ever stood to like a hobby, pretty much ever. My sister's like
Nice.
known for like when I pick like get obsessed with something, I do like hyperfixation. So like one time it was like doing my nails at home, and like my sister would joke and like, okay, we give Angie like 3 weeks, she's gonna be obsessed with something else. And then it was, I was obsessed with like makeup, and that was when I was way younger. Like
Yeah.
now they're like, oh, why did I like that? But reading books, all that is one thing that I do stick with. Aside from like cooking stuff from scratch, I don't know, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
think
yeah,
that's part of what took me 16 years to finally publish was I was like, I give up on everything. I don't want to
mhm,
publish and give up on it. My husband
yeah,
told me, he's like, you've been doing this for almost a year now. Your third book will be out this long as you've stuck with anything. I'm like, thanks for the encouragement.
mm,
But also, yeah, you're right. This is because I took my time to really make sure this is what I wanted.
mhm.
And that's kind of the other part is if I write my book, I move on to the next one. It's a different topic. It's like a whole new
Oh yeah, you don't get
station
bored.
for me. Yeah.
Mhm.
This time I got to learn about fashion and cars and helicopters
Nice.
because my guy's a billionaire, Duke's a billionaire. And I'm like, what do billionaires have? Houses and cars and
I love it.
fancy watches. Got to learn about all that. So it let me, pivot to hyperfixate on it for a little bit and then use that, which has been really nice to be able to use all of the
No.
hyperfixations I've had and all the things I've learned. Yeah.
I always tell people that I'm like what you call a jack of all trades, master of
Uh-huh.
nothing. But
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
guess it's perfect for writing a story because I know a little bit about everything. It's
Yeah.
silly.
Yeah. You got to know a lot of things when you're right. It's amazing because you're like, wait, oh, my character's a museum archivist. Oh, yeah. I took one class in college. Let's see if I can find that professor and get some more info. Find all my notes from that one time I was totally obsessed with it.
I know, like I really love Udemy where you buy courses online.
Yeah.
But if you see my list of Udemy courses I purchased, oh my God, people will just laugh. It
Yeah.
goes from like social media content to astrology to how to build better relationships. To like the most randomest things. And I bought a TikTok course, like just it's silly.
Yeah.
But I do love learning. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Learning for the sake of learning is very important. And I think people focus so much on what are you going to do with it that they forget that sometimes it's just to learn and that's okay.
I promise you, I'm always that one person in the group where someone's talking like, "Oh, well, I read somewhere that this is this and this was that." And like
Yeah. Yeah. That's me.
always. always. Sometimes I get a little bit annoyed with myself.
Yeah. That's one thing with Lily's character that I've had to kind of work through because I'm like, Lily is a know-it-all.
Mhm.
And Lily doesn't mean to put people off, but she does. She does all the
Mhm.
time. And so she ends up censoring herself. And it's kind of interesting because as I've been going through and editing, doing my, final kind of edits on this, I was like, am I using too many ellipses? Am I using too many M dashes? That's a thing people don't like. But I need to convey that Lily is censoring herself.
Mhm.
She's stopping herself from saying what she really wants to
Oh,
say
wow.
because she is autistic and she is a little bit of a know-it-all. She loves to read. She's
Mhm.
highly educated, master's in library sciences, and works in a museum and studies historical documents and artwork and artifacts for a living. And so she's very well educated. She's very well read. And
Mhm.
she wants to tell everybody about her knowledge. She gets very excited about it, but she's constantly holding herself back because she's told she's too much. Um, so I wanted to show that. So there's a lot of M dashes and ellipses. Sorry, guys.
Mm. No, I'm
I
excited to read
I
that.
don't know how else to
That's funny.
oh yeah, you don't want to hear about this. No, wait, I do. And it does peter off. She does stop doing that as the book goes on because Duke does want to hear those things. He does like when she prattles on, as she says.
Mhm.
And so it does fade and she becomes a little more confident in sharing her knowledge because it's not so much about censoring herself as it is accepting that this is who she is
Mhm.
and somebody else accepting this is who she is and loving her for it.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's why I love romance.
I love it. All right,
Yeah.
and have you ever written anything that took an unexpected turn that surprised you?
Yeah. So Frankie and the Fed, which is my sapphic spy novel coming out later this year, I made me have to look inside myself and at my own identity and understand why I was enjoying reading that particular book so much.
Mm.
Um, I did not actually set out to write that as a sapphic spy novel. Spy was originally a guy named James. And as I was writing it, I'm like, Frankie is not straight. Why am I trying to force this with a guy for her? And then I switched James to Jamie and bam, it was easy. It went smoothly. I'm like, oh, wait, why do I like this so much? But it's good. It's good to explore and understand and change. So it's been an interesting book to write.
Nice. And do you have any advice that you would give to any other inspiring writers as they're starting their journey?
Don't be so afraid of yourself
Mhm.
and afraid of what you're going to write. Let it happen. If it ends up that you're like, oh, the world cannot see this, most
Mhm.
likely they need to see it, but you can also just set it aside and try something else. You can always change, you can always grow, but you can't do that if you aren't just writing. So
Mm.
right. Even if it scares you, even if the topic scares you, even if what you're saying scares you, because it will at some point. I don't know any authors, any writers that haven't at some point wrote something that scared them, and that made them be like, what just happened right now? What did I just write?
Mhm.
What am I talking about? This is a lot.
Mhm.
And that's I find some of the best things are going to come at those times where you're like, oh crap, what did I just write?
Okay. All right. So we're going to get another part where we talk a little bit more about non-writing related questions to get to know you as a
Okay.
person.
Okay.
So I have some questions written down, but I am very interested in how did you read that many books? Are you just genuinely a fast reader?
Yes.
I love that. I'm
Tested myself
jealous.
in college and I was definitely above average reading speed. I
Mhm.
also listen to audiobooks. I listen to them
Yeah.
now on 2x. I
Yeah.
used to listen to them on 3x. and the library has them. For a while, I worked a job where I would fly to a part of the country and then drive around to all the Walmarts in the country or in that area, in that region. And I had a little thing I did. I didn't really ever have to talk to anybody, and I was completely by myself in a car for 15 hours a day, and then in a hotel room, a different hotel room every night. And so what I had was audiobooks, and I had the credits, and there's something else with Audible where you can there's a bunch of books you can just listen to, and then the Libby app, and I would listen to audiobooks. I would listen to 2 or 3 sometimes in a day.
Oh. Well, yeah, because you listen so fast.
Yes. And they're not all super long either.
Yeah.
Some were really short. Some have been really long. You know, I don't shy away from the super long ones either. Some of them are the best. And then at night, when I was by myself, I would just, read a book to fall asleep. So that went on for several years. I had already read quite a lot of books before that. When I get overwhelmed, like my safe kind of thing to do is put on my little unicorn hoodie and read a book, because that helps with the feeling of overwhelmed, to just kind of be able to shut out everything else that's going on and focus on that for a little while. And I haven't worked like a full-time corporate job in like a decade. So I have a lot more free time where I'm not commuting and not kind of wasting time sitting in front of a computer doing nothing, which is always ended up what happens when I worked corporate jobs. So a lot of free time, really fast listening speed, a lot of dedicated time I was able to put towards reading.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm not able to do 3 times speed. The most I could do is 2 times. It's practice, but
yeah, since my strokes, I can't do 3 times. I can do 2 times. Some books I have to do it 1.5 times. It affected my thalamus, which is your sensory processing. So my processing is slower, but I still think probably faster. Must be ADHD in me.
Yes. All right. So what are some hobbies or interests you have outside of writing and reading, I should say, if there's
outside writing and reading? So I refinish furniture. Most of the furniture in my house is been redone by me. I also paint. I don't know if you can see my paintings back here. I didn't do the witch right there, but the rest of these are mine.
Okay.
Yeah, and I crochet. I don't have any samples around here. Why don't I have any of my crochet? Oh, anyways, I crochet. After I had my strokes, one of the things I had to do was regain functioning in my hands.
Oh, that helps.
And so crocheting was actually very important to me. I made like 3 whole blankets in the first few months after my stroke while I was regaining dexterity.
Mama, right. Yes, Penelope, go back. Sorry.
Okay.
You walked by earlier.
I have 2 kids. I fostered 20 kids, so I get it.
Wow. She walked by earlier and real like the softest voice ever. Mom, there's a unicorn. Because she sees you in the camera.
Yes, there is a unicorn.
But she was so quiet about it, like she was shocked. Like, why am I talking to a unicorn?
I love you know what? I love my unicorn so much. I have like 3 little things I can wear in the summer. It's so hot here in the summer. I can't wear my sweater. So I have a little unicorn. It just makes me feel, I don't know, comfortable, I guess.
I love it. Oh, I have my favorite sweater. I'm in Arizona right now.
Yeah.
And it's hot and I still have my sweater on.
Yep.
Sorry. All right. So my next question to you is, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Alaska. And I don't know why, but every time I watch a video or like a show set in Alaska, they have a lot of them, like surviving the Alaska wilds. I don't think I could survive the Alaska wilds, but I might be able to survive the Alaska cities, the metro. But like it's just this like deep yearning in me to go to Alaska. Probably because I grew up in Arizona
Oh
and
yeah.
I
I
hate
think
the
I live in
heat.
Arizona too.
I
Yeah.
do not do well in the heat.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know, Alaska, it just feels like it would be home, and I've never even been there, so what do I know? But that's where.
Well, Seattle is like a big hub for traveling to Alaska. There's like
Yeah,
boats that leave every day to go to
yeah,
Alaska.
yes. And you know what? I've been to Seattle. I would take Seattle or like coastal Oregon as second best. It's a beautiful area.
We lived there I was there for like 4 or 5 years, and I just moved
Oh
back
yeah,
to Arizona like
oh yeah,
3 months ago. Yeah.
oh wow. My family's from Spokane.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Wow.
that's where I was born. I wasn't raised there, but my mom was raised in Valley, just
Mm.
north of Spokane.
Mm. Well, I
Mhm.
was in the smackdown middle of the city with two
Yeah,
kids. It was
yeah.
hard. It was beautiful, but hard as
Oh
a kid.
yeah, yeah.
Hard as a kid. So now I'm back here.
Seattle is quite an interesting city. When I was there for the job where I was going to all the
Oh,
Walmarts. I got to spend a few days waiting for my flight in Seattle. I'm like, I
wow.
can't really drive here,
Mhm.
but I have to. But this is interesting.
Mhm.
It was fun. It was a fun place to be. It was January, rainy and cold, a little bit icy. It's nice.
There's always something to do when you walk out the door. There's something new to do. Like you're never bored.
Hmm.
But I did not drive. All the years that I've been in Washington,
Yeah, no.
and I drive. I have a driver license, everything, but I
Yeah.
would not drive in the city.
Yeah, no,
And
it's interesting to drive there.
people drive on the wrong side of the road. Happened multiple
Uh-huh.
times. Car with my husband, like someone just like on the oncoming. Like it's scary.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
People are jumping out in the middle of the road.
Oh,
Everything
yeah.
feels so narrow. So
Narrow, hilly, wet. Yeah.
I would only drive like we were on like the south side of Seattle, so it's more like
Hmm.
suburb where like my
Hmm.
family was. I would drive all over there, but not where I live.
In Seattle, yeah, no, no,
It was scary.
the mess.
Very different than Phoenix. Even with the freeways, the big roads, are big,
Oh,
giant open
hmm.
space, and I can drive all day long here.
Yeah, the neighborhood I grew up in, the road I grew up on, is wider than the. I lived in the South, and I went to school in Alabama.
Oh my God.
Was wider than like most of the major roads in Alabama. Like my little neighborhood, two-way, 25-mile-an-hour street was wider than most of the roads in Alabama. I'm like,
What
all
part
right.
what part of Alabama are you from?
So I went to the University of Montevallo. You might have heard it from the Sam Hunt song. The song Montevallo has the whole album.
Oh,
It was like his debut.
mhm.
It's Central Alabama. In fact, there's a little star in the middle of the campus that's like, this is the center of Alabama. It's debatable. They claim it. Another town called Centerville claims it. So it's like,
Um,
which one is it?
I grew up in Alabama too.
Oh, yeah? What
Mhm.
part?
I was in like it's a small town called Demopolis,
Oh,
but I also grew up in like Tuscaloosa
oh, yeah.
and all those.
Yeah, we went to Tuscaloosa a lot. It was kind of weird because here in Phoenix, driving 3 or 4 miles to the grocery store feels like a lot. Whereas in Alabama, we would go from,
Yeah.
Clear, Alabama on I-65 to Tuscaloosa for therapy. And like, it was nothing. It was just an afternoon little drive over there, but it took an hour. And I was like, oh, that's not too far. It's just Tuscaloosa.
There was a time I lived in Tennessee, and I was like 65 miles from Nashville. Everything
Yeah.
that we wanted to do, because I was in like a little Amish town, biggest store is
Hmm.
Walmart.
Yeah.
Anything besides Walmart, I had to drive to Nashville. And it was
Hmm.
like an hour, but it was like no big deal.
Yeah.
Come, every time we wanted to go shopping or needed something,
Hmm.
the doctor, it was like nothing. Now here in Wickenburg, I'm like before Wickenburg. I have a little small business.
Yeah.
I actually do I'm I do tarot readings in my
Oh, I do tarot too. I don't
hey,
get paid.
it's a day job. I've been doing it 20 years.
Wow.
Uh, I'm actually the tarot reader in Wickenburg. So my place is before you get to the roundabout in Wickenburg. But when we need to go to the store, it's like 3 miles to drive all the way through Wickenburg to get to the station.
Yeah.
It's like, why is it so far?
Oh,
But
geez.
before, I used to
Yeah.
drive like an hour to get somewhere,
Yeah. I used to have to drive to Wickenburg as part of this job. I drove everywhere. I would drive all over Arizona as well. I would drive to Wickenburg. I'm like, oh, this is nothing from Phoenix. But I remember when I was a kid, Wickenburg was so far away. It's just grown so much between Phoenix and everywhere. Honestly, Phoenix just
Mm-mm.
keeps growing so much that it's like
Oh,
swallowing everything along the way. It's kind of sad
yeah.
to see.
But to get to like Glendale, Peoria area, it's I'm like 30 minutes. Not that,
Yeah. Yeah.
not that far.
Not too far.
Mhm. All right. Sometimes I ramble. Sorry.
That's fine.
Do you have a favorite movie or TV show?
Oh, I don't have a favorite. I have like 50 favorites.
Oh, no. Okay. What is one?
Right now, I am rewatching Psych, which is
Mm-hmm.
fantastic show. Love it. It's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I need to find and see if they have on Amazon all the movies that came after when they're in San Francisco, Psych Francisco. I really love Stargate. I also recently rewatched that. That's like my sci-fi go-to is Stargate. I love Stargate Atlantis. Of course, Jason Momoa is beautiful and everybody knows it. But if you haven't watched Stargate Atlantis, he's amazing as Ronan Dex in it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started seeing him, because this was before he really became big, before Game of Thrones, before Aquaman, he was in Stargate Atlantis. He was in a few things before that, but this was like kind of a bigger role for him. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe nobody else sees it that way. But it's a really good show. Love it. What else do I like? New Girl and Parks and Rec in The Office. Love all that kind of sitcoms. 30 Rock. I quote them about 50 times a day.
That's funny. Nice. I just recently watched the Walking Dead spinoff with
Oh, which one? Fear the Walking Dead?
no, not that one. It was only one season. It's one with Rick and Michonne. It's called
Oh.
The Ones Who Lived or something like that. It came out last year.
I haven't seen that one yet. I'm still working through Fear the Walking Dead.
Well, you don't need to finish Fear the Walking Dead to watch it, but
Okay.
I guess I'll wait because I did that. I've watched all of them. But I kept waiting for this series come out, and then like sometimes you just don't know on top of things. I didn't know it came out last year until I seen it on Netflix. It's like newly added. I'm like, what? This came out? You just gotta watch it. It was the ending. I mean, did you finish The Walking Dead, the series?
No, I still haven't finished that. I can't get past season 1. I know I should, but it's like, okay, I get it. There's zombies and interpersonal drama. Let's move on.
I'll be honest with you. The Walking Dead, it's probably only really good for like 3 seasons at the most.
Oh, okay.
The rest of the seasons is just so like that. You're like, okay. It's the same thing over again. They get to a good place. Drama happens. They got to rebuild. It's like so much to the point. It's like, what's wrong with these people?
Oh, yeah.
They dragged it out for so long that I was really happy when it ended, but I was so disappointed in the ending. It was not at all what I wanted to see. But this spinoff, this one with Rick and Michonne, was what I wanted the ending of The Walking Dead to be.
Hey, maybe that's why they made it.
I think so, because maybe everyone complained.
Yeah.
Because there's like, I mean, I'm sure you've seen the first episode then of The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So if you remember like the very first episode, Rick he picks up this like bunny stuffed animal.
Oh yeah,
And it was like a really significant thing. And like most people watch it because we want to know what's the significance of the
the
rabbit.
bunny. Yeah.
Yes. Like what like why did they film that? And that was one thing that kept me watching The Walking Dead. Because I wanted to know what was that? What was the importance? Finish that whole series, never bring up that rabbit again.
Oh my gosh. So
Oh,
there's this storytelling like theory that is basically if you introduce a gun, it needs to go off in the second act, and when you don't do that, your readers, your viewers will be super disappointed. Sounds like that's what they did. They introduced this bunny, they focused on it, and then they're like, never mind.
I think so.
What?
Well, they answered that. Well, that's the point in the spinoff with Rick and Michonne. You get the answer. Very subtle, and it's like if you're not a Walking Dead fan and you don't remember that bunny, then you're not gonna get it. But like when I seen it, I was like, oh my god, now it makes so much sense. There's the bunny.
That makes me wonder if there was like a disagreement on how to end the show between creators, and they said, well, I'm just going to do it my way. We're going to do it right.
Because it was a terrible, terrible ending. Like I was so disappointed.
Oh,
But
if you like The Walking Dead and you listen to podcasts, there's one, oh shoot. We're Alive is what it's called. And it's an audio drama. So it's got a cast and it's completely audio. So it's basically a zombie show, but it's got a very satisfying ending, I think, where things are
oh,
kind of wrapped up. So if you like The Walking Dead and you like listening to podcasts, you might like We're Alive. I think I listened to it. Man, it's been 10 years. It's kind of old by now. I used to listen to it while I worked at my last corporate job. So it's been, almost 10 years now. But it was so good, very entertaining, and it really wraps things up nicely. I have not found another audio drama like that that's been quite that good.
I'll listen to it.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a question for you with podcasts. Since you listen to a lot of stuff. I mean, I remember I started podcasts like listening to them. I think I was like 16 or 17
Wow.
when I like first started listening to them. My very first podcast I listened to was Potterheads, which was about Harry
Whoa.
Potter. Yeah. And that was like I think they're still going on today. Like it was a big podcast.
Wow.
And it was all about Harry Potter. But I do try to get into other podcasts. And when I get into them, like my brain can't handle the way most podcasts play out the episodes.
Oh.
So like, and it's I don't know how to fix it. Maybe I'll have to find the answer. So like when you listen to a podcast, it will always play you the newest episode, and then
Yes.
go down from what was the one before that. Right. So you're
Because
going
it's
from
assuming you've been listening the whole time. Yeah.
I hate that because when I start a podcast, I want to listen from the very beginning so I can understand whatever reference is, whatever is going on as you like kind of get to know. And I can't figure out how to fix that. And that's one reason why, even though I'm recording a podcast, why I always start and stop podcasts. Because there's plenty of times like I'll play it like on my Alexa speaker while I'm like cleaning or whatever. And sometimes you're not paying attention and it gets to a different episode.
Yeah.
That it's like now I'm not going up I don't know, it's confusing. And
so I used to have a podcast. I did it in 2020. That's why I have a fancy microphone set up. And I'm actually thinking of using this and my previous podcast and audio experience to record my own audiobooks, but we'll see about that. It's controversial for authors to read their own audio fiction audiobooks. But when I did that, I didn't care so much if people read it because the whole purpose of the podcast was to record it with my siblings during the lockdown so that we could stay connected and have something that the rest of the family could keep up with our lives. But I did look into having a web page where somebody could go listen on the web page in order because it drove me crazy that you had to scroll and scroll and scroll to find. No, I get it. It's so annoying. I don't know how to fix that. Spotify, if you're listening.
That's what I was just gonna say. If they could have a little button, how like if you're browsing a website you're shopping, you put like the highest rating when you're on like Amazon or
Oh,
cheapest to
yeah.
lowest.
Yeah.
Why?
Let us sort them.
It's like one thing that drives me insane.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Because and here's the thing with podcasts is that whatever the topic of the podcast is, you're still telling a story. So being able to follow that story in order from episode to episode is very important for continuity, for holding on to your audience, for just generally like telling a good story. Otherwise, it's a mess.
Mhm. That's because there's some like podcasts that I would listen to and they referencing or talking about something from a previous episode. And it's like, well, I don't know because I didn't listen to it. So I
Yeah.
always start from the. I'm sorry. No, me. Right here. Don't play with my phone. All right. Well, I kept you on for a while. I just have a couple more questions for you,
Okay.
and I'll let you go. One of them is my favorite question to ask people is, what is your favorite comfort food or meal?
Oh, you know what? This is something I really had to think about too for a long time. Right now, my favorite comfort food is cauliflower crust pizza from
Really?
Aldi in their deli section. I have to add that it has to be can you tell I'm autistic? It has to be the veggie one. And then I add my own pepperoni and cheese on top of it to give it like extra. I feel like it's not filling when it's not got the meat. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
My mindset is I have to eat meat or I'm not eating a meal.
Right. Mhm, mhm.
And so to add that's like in fact, I am going to go make it as soon as we're done because I haven't eaten lunch yet. It's like
Oh,
my plan. I have it sitting right there waiting for me. So that and eggs are my like comfort, which is
really?
weird comfort food. I know most people hate them, and I hate them by themselves. But I really like to experiment with putting other things in the eggs. So like, bacon, ham, but also like shredded beef or carnitas. Lately, I've been doing carnitas and bell peppers, which is so
Oh,
good.
nice.
Um, Labano peppers in the eggs is also really good. And I learned how to make them in the microwave to save myself a headache cleaning my pan.
I used to do that when I was a kid. I mean, it probably was the worst thing ever I did. I used to get a styrofoam bowl.
No.
Like, where was my mom to tell me, like, honey, you're eating chemicals?
Like, you can't eat that. It's gonna poison you.
Like 7. Scrambled up eggs, put them in the microwave, and I knew like a specific time. I don't remember what it was that I would put it on, and they would come out perfect every time. But the bowl was all like, melted. I
Yeah.
used to eat that
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
until I got older and realized that's wrong. Like, where
So
was my mom?
question for you. Did you have any health problems from
No,
that?
no.
Oh.
And it's so funny. I was just talking about this with my friends the other day because one of my friends done a surgery, and I was telling her, like, you took this like a champ, like perfectly fine. And then like my other friend was saying how she done multiple surgeries. I'm like, guys, I'm the only one that had never done a surgery before. I have no health problems. I have no surgeries. Maybe it was the styrofoam.
Oh my goodness. It's just, holding you together.
It's so bad.
It doesn't decay in the landfill. It doesn't decay in you. And now you don't decay.
No, I'm indestructible. Yeah. I found the answer to immortality.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it's just scary thinking about it.
I know, so bad. All right, I have one more question and I'll let you
Okay.
go to have your
Okay.
lunch. Are you a coffee or a tea person?
Coffee, 100%.
Yeah.
And when I was Mormons don't drink coffee.
Okay.
I still drink coffee. I just lied about it because you have to. It's so important. They ask you every 2 years, are you drinking coffee? In like an interview. Oh my God, no, it's insane. If you ever get bored and want to understand Mormonism, you have to look up ex-Mormons that are like talking about the religion and deconstructing it. Alyssa Grenfield is a really good one, and so is and I can't remember her rest of her name, but no, really, they would ask you specifically every 2 years in what they call a worthiness interview. And I just lied about it because I love it so much. I don't lie anymore. I'm on my third cup of coffee a day. And by cup, I mean, it's like, how many ounces is this? Like 24 ounces of iced coffee. 3 of them a day. I
Nice.
go through so much.
You drink
I love
black?
it. It's yummy and it helps my ADHD. So sometimes I drink it black. I like it with Chobani. I'm so picky. I won't go anywhere for it because I can't get it good. I like stock cold brew. I like it hot, a lot of different varieties, but iced coffee, I like stock cold brew, unsweet with like the teal label with Chobani zero. I can't have the sugar, so zero sugar sweetener. Just like a couple splashes of it. It tastes like heaven. It's so good.
Chobani's a good one. Like, I just recently found this out, I don't know, a couple of years ago, that like International Delight and Coffee Mate is just oil.
Yes. And I can't have oil. And so I have to if I don't want sweet, I use just regular heavy cream, just a couple of splashes of regular heavy cream. Yeah.
And heavy cream gives it like a natural, like a sweeter taste for some reason, doesn't it? If you just put heavy cream.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we make whipped cream.
Yeah.
A little bit sweet. It's not super sweet though. And I prefer salty most days anyway. I'm pretty sure I have something called POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, where basically I need 10,000 milligrams of sodium a day to feel okay. So I prefer salt over sweet most of the time anyway. But yeah, it's just like a little bit, if you don't love sweet, try heavy cream in your coffee. It's really good.
That's good. Nice. All right. Well, I had a blast chatting with you.
Yes.
Long enough.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. You enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy your lunch.
You too. All right.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Bookish Spell. I hope you enjoy our magical bookish journey together. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And feel free to leave a review. It really helps. I'll be back next Wednesday with more enchanting stories and author insights. Until next time, keep the magic alive in your hearts and on your bookshelves.